Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My first video here, JA Photographs. I am JA. You can refer to me as Joe. Just a little background. I do have another channel here called Joe's Garage and Other Stuff. That channel started, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. Doing like diecast car resurrections, Hot Wheels, Matchbox, hobby stuff, some car stuff, tool reviews, things like that. And I never did a photography video on that channel, though it was something that I was very passionate about. Never got around to it, and I'm going to give you the background of why I'm starting this channel. So, just some reflection of where we've been since the pandemic. I've always been a student of photography. It started when I was a kid. That's what triggered the the interest. My dad had an SX70 Polaroid camera. Another family member had a Polaroid land camera, and it was one of the ones where you would take the photograph and you had to pull a strip out of the back of the camera. And that was like magic for a kid who grew up in the 70s. That was the closest we had to, like high-tech stuff. We used to watch Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, but we were still on the cusp of video games and internet, and any information we needed, we had to go to the library. So that's what started started gaining traction with me. Was that magic of that technology. You would see a photograph appear in front of your eyes, kind of thing. And then I got a Polaroid Pronto for Christmas when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Had a paper route plus getting an allowance, so I was blowing money on those packages of film for my Polaroid Pronto, and then trying to take photographs of my friends on their BMX bikes jumping off ramps and things like that. Just anything in general. That's what I was wasting my any earnings that I had from a paper route and my weekly allowance. I was buying film packs and just squeezing the trigger. Wasn't really giving it much thought as an art form. It was just, it was the fun of it. And that's how that all started. But the reason I'm starting this channel is because from probably 2008 was when I really took a firm grip. I got back into photography like pretty hardcore. Up until then, I did the Polaroid camera thing. Then I went into high school, was doing darkroom work, chemistry, making prints, developing negatives, 35 millimeter. I had a Pentax K1000, which I still have. After school, life took over. You got to get a job or go to school, whatever it was. I put the cameras away. I would only take them out for a special event like a wedding or something, and maybe not even then. And then I got into computers. That was going to be my career choice. Did some schooling, and 9/11, 2001 happened. And when I started seeing the images coming back, because now the internet is big, it's every day you're being bombarded with photographs from ground zero, documenting this tragedy. I decided I needed to take the film cameras out of the closet, blow the dust off, and digital still didn't have a foothold, but it was starting to gain some momentum. The tech was getting better, and I think the first like real digital camera that I got my hands on, I was working for a computer company. I had a Sony Digital Mavica with the 1.44 floppy disk, or the hard disk. I eventually got my first full-blown digital camera in 2008. I was a Pentax shooter. I found out that the Pentax digital cameras would work with the old K-mount lenses from your film cameras. I also found out that they made adapters for your M42 screw-mount lenses. So Pentax, from my K1000 film camera, I think the first digital camera, like legit, was a Pentax K10D. It seemed like the logical entry to digital because I didn't have to spend money on glass, even though I was manually focusing, other than the kit lens that came with the K10D. And then from there, I probably ended up, I think the last Pentax camera digital was the K20D, and I was starting to really get back into it. I had taken a course from New York Institute of Photography to kind of get my chops back because it had been so long. I don't know if NYIP even still exists. I'm not even sure. But now, Flickr was out there. You wanted to share your photographs. You're kind of getting into the social media of photography and trying to, have people see your stuff. But the Pentax K20D wasn't doing it for me in low light situations. I eventually switched over to Canon. I think my first Canon was a Rebel XT or XTI. So I had the Rebel XTI and the K20D, and then I went full blown Canon. I went to a Canon 50D and a 5D Mark II. And then for like an all around pocket camera to just be out in the street with and do whatever, picked up a G11, which I still own today. And then from the 50D and 5D Mark II, I replaced the 50D with a 7D. So I had a 7D and an MK2 or a 5D Mark II and the G11. Then they upgraded the 7D to the 7D Mark II. Then I had the 7D Mark II. Eventually sold the 5D Mark II, which I really regret. I may end up going back and picking one of those up used. So I had the 7D Mark II and the G11. And then mirrorless started coming in. But in between all those camera system iterations, I was doing a lot of work. Met some people in like group shootouts and photo walks and venues where people were showing their work. So you start networking. I found out things about, you don't have to just shoot nature. You don't just have to shoot landscape. You just don't have to shoot architecture or street. And there's actually models out there that wanted to have their photographs taken. And there was this whole movement of pinup work. I had a lot of work published in a magazine called Retro Lovely, which is still being produced today, although the guy who started it, a friend of mine named Michael Bann, passed, I want to say just before the beginning of the summer of 2024, which was a terrible loss. He was really a good friend of mine. So I had published tons of work in that magazine. Friends of his have taken over that magazine, plus all the other spawns of magazines for that type of work are still being produced. I did work for calendars, for like hot rods, and just basically motorsport kind of stuff. I got into fine art modeling, nude modeling, just any kind of modeling, and I was doing a lot of work. I did a lot of work probably between 2013 to 2018 or 2019, and once the pandemic rolled around and everybody got lopsided, it kind of shut us all down, and I put the cameras away. And just recently, within the last couple of years, I've had talks with people that are in my little circle. I still had my 7D Mark II. I had friends that were using mirrorless cameras. I really got turned on to the Fuji system. And I ended up buying, when it first came out, was the Fuji X100S, which I still own. I got rid of the last Canon camera, and currently my digital setup is Fuji X100S and the Fuji X-T4. I still have all my film cameras and a few that I've acquired along the way, and having these discussions with these folks that are in my little artsy clique, or my photographic clique, if you will. It's just time to get the cameras back in my hands and start creating again, because that was really, it was a passion. And I started looking, I've subscribed to several photography channels way back, and I still follow them, and the one I follow the most is The Art of Photography. And I started discovering just recently, over the last month or so, as these talks with people have been rejuvenating me and getting me motivated. There's some young cats out there, guys and gals out there, that have put an onus on film. There seems to be a resurrection of film. And since I cut my teeth on film, I'm not a pro. I'm certainly not a novice either. Spending the better of, you go back to like 1984, 85 is when I really got into film photography. And then this whole progression up to, say, 2019, just before the pandemic. I was both feet in. constantly, trying to better myself, constantly learning, and I made the full switch to mirrorless cameras, and then everything shut down. So still have my Fuji's. No intentions of doing anything crazy like jumping into another system, but the resurrection of film and seeing a lot of folks really doing it. And not only that, film is being produced. There's photo labs that are opening up. I live in New Jersey. There's at least two of that I know in New York City where you could walk in, whether you could take a course, whether you could just rent time, get your hands in some chemistry, actually develop your own negatives, and get your fingers and hands back into the craft of an analog world. I used to develop my own negatives myself. And actually earlier today, I went out. I actually grabbed my old Fuji, Yashica Electro 35 GT, and I ran a roll of Ilford 100 through it. It's an expired roll. I consider it getting my feet wet again, and in this package is that roll that I'm going to be sending off to Dwayne's Photo in Kansas, which was the lab that I always used when I wasn't developing my own negatives. I would just package it up, send it out there, let them do the scans. And considering now that I'm not set up for chemistry, I have to go out and buy chemistry. But I did go down in my basement. I opened up my big Tupperware or Rubbermaid container, made sure I had my Patterson tanks, thermometers, everything needed to do the black and white film developing as far as equipment. Cleaned it up, blew the dust off it, and I'm going to be looking for chemistry. So I'm going to be doing my film stuff again, as well as digital. And I wanted to now make a channel that's devoted, it is photography centric, and throw my 2 cents in for what that is worth. Mostly because of the inspiration that I've seen from these young folks that are out there. Not that I'm super old by any means. I just turned 55 this summer, but the passion it had to take a back seat just because of what transpired. So now that it seems like we're full blown out of pandemic mode, and this movement for film photography seems to be coming back, has really made a difference for me, and I don't want to lose it. So that's the basis of what this channel will be. I'm not sure how academic it will be. I don't know if I'm going to, do reviews and things like that. I'm going to be more of a layman's terms. I will show things like how I develop my film, how I scan my film, which is a whole other thing now. And just basically sharing photographs and maybe giving people some inspiration that, maybe they want to get into film photography. Maybe just, I don't want to use the term like dumbing it down, but it can be a daunting task for folks when they first get started, even in digital. So what I'm actually trying to rally my wagon, so to speak, because back in that time frame when I was really heavy into it, I was trying to be somebody that brought inspiration to other folks. Like, hey, this isn't that big of a deal. You have to know some things, you have to know what's going on inside the box, but it doesn't have to be all tech talk and gear talk, and you should use this, you should shoot an M3. You don't need an M3. You don't need a Leica. You just have to have the passion. And I forget who said it, but the best camera that you have is the one you have with you, or the best camera to have is the one that you have with you. You need to have it on you, and you need to go out there and you need to make your photographs. So that's what I'm going to try and bring to the table. I'm going to do a little bit of techie stuff and, try and make it a little bit easier to understand so it's not so frightening, for folks. And share my work, maybe bring some inspiration to folks, and see where it takes me. So I've asked my subscribers from my other channel if they're into photography to come on over, and I urge you, if you've saw this video and a little bit of photographs that I've put up just to show some of the work that I do, if you're interested, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, pat me on the back, wish me well, and hopefully I can make make this channel worthwhile for anybody that views it. So thanks for being here. Again, like, share, subscribe, leave comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.